Hi, I'm Yasmin Owusu, and this is my producer, Charlie Kesenek.
But I'm your husband, and you're using all my stuff right now. What are you talking about?
So anyway, I've been looking for a one-stop shop podcast for wellness, amateur sociology, psychology, pop culture, and whatever else sparks my interest. So I created one. We are limited to no lanes. We hit the gas and get into it. This is Peaked. Press play.
Hello and welcome to Peaked Podcast. I'm Yasmin, your faithful host, back for another week of Peaked. It's been a good one. It's been a good week so far. I'm recording on Thursday, which is pretty typical lately. And I've had my anniversary really recently. It was April 1st. It's a day me and producer husband Charlie chose because it was easy to remember. You know, we chose April Fool's Day and like two fools in love. No, I'm just kidding. But we didn't remember exactly. It was like late March or early April, our first like hangout date. It was like very casual thing. So it was hard to pinpoint the exact day. So we went with that. And to celebrate it, on Sunday, we went to a swimming hole. Like we went to swim in the Colorado River. And yes, I'm trying to rub it in to all of you who are still in the freezing cold that we in fact can swim and get some color. And some of us need it more than others in this relationship. But I still am a big fan of like baking. So we spent a lot of time outside, and then we got a fancy dinner and all that good stuff. And along the way, you know, we also tend to go on a lot of trails with our dog and like, you know, these off-leash dog parks that are like kind of larger parks or whatever. I kind of got a hold of one of many of these little cropping up cultural differences that I've noticed since moving from the Northeast to Texas and maybe to the South in general. I wouldn't know. I've only lived in Texas. And this little phenomenon I'm going to call the Texas 2 cents, not to be confused with Texas 2-step, which is actually really fun to do if you're ever at a honky tonk. But the Texas 2 cents is something that I've just noticed, and I feel qualified to say the Texas and not the Austin. And I know people want to be like, Austin isn't Texas. Austin isn't Texas. Okay, I've been around Texas a fair amount, okay? I've been all the way west as far as Big Bend and many towns in between. I've gone all the way to South Padre, many towns in between. I've gone to Hill Country, I've gone to Dallas, I've gone to Houston. So I've been around this town. I've gone road tripping all the way to New York, so I've gone through a bunch of Texas on the way there. So I do feel like I'm allowed to say that it's a Texas thing at this point. It is a tendency, and a lot of these little observations I make are not inherently bad things. They're just differences, and I'm sure there are reasons for it, and I might hypothesis what they are. There's a tendency, I ramble, to give you, it's a little bit more than just unsolicited advice. It's almost like a schooling, and it's often not exactly right to you. So the example that I found when we were at Onion Creek, taking our dog for a little swim. It's an off-leash dog park that's it's just a natural like park, basically. There's a bunch of trails on it, and then there's also like an access to the Colorado River. Every lake and whatever people want to call them, it's all the Colorado River, essentially. They'll call it a million things, and it's actually just different inlets to the Colorado River. Anyway, so we were there. We're at the Onion Creek part of the Colorado River, and our dog was swimming, and he has this game that he likes to play where you just like throw him rocks. Obviously, you don't throw on him, but you just throw them kind of away from him, and he swims towards it. And he doesn't retrieve anything. He's just, he's supposed to be a Labrador retriever, but he's never retrieved anything in his life. And he just likes to swim in the direction of it and then swim back. And then at some point, he digs out a completely unrelated rock, presents it to us with great pride, and that's the game, right? So we're trying to accomplish that with him. So Charlie is throwing him this rock and kind of stumbles a little. And I just hear someone up the hill, this lady that I'd passed by who had a really cute dog, and we had a cute little interaction with our dogs. I hear her go like to the guy that she's sitting with. She's like, well, I personally would have worn water shoes, but that's just me. And, I hear a lot of these little side comments, and I just let them slide, right? I let this one slide, sort of. I mean, to her I did, and then I ranted about it the whole time we were on the trail. There is a good reason Charlie's not wearing water shoes. Because unlike Miss Muffet on a Tuffet on the hill, who's just sitting there watching her dog splash around in the water, we fully plan on not only standing on the riverbank and throwing our dog rocks, but taking him on a pretty long trail that is like heavily mulched and would get a bunch of like little twig shrapnel into your shoes if you were to wear open-toe shoes. And we don't really find a lot of these hikes particularly difficult, so we don't feel the need to like gear up super much. But anyway, we just decided one pair of shoes and done, and not just like carry water shoes in this. We're not necessarily going to get in. It's not the biggest deal, right? And we've done this a million times. Contrary to her belief, this is not our first rodeo. I'm using my Texas phrases. I don't need to tell her all that, nor does she need to put in her 2 cents, but she went ahead. This one I let go. There was another one a while before that where we were on another trail with our dog that has water and blah, 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 and is off leash, called Turkey Creek. And we were playing Sly's little game, as we're known to do, because that's what he likes to do. There was a time where we would throw him sticks and we would hope he would bring them back. And essentially, we just started to create a beaver dam everywhere we made of sticks he didn't collect. And he just lost interest and he didn't even really want to pretend to chase them. So we found this game and it works better. But anyway, we're playing this. Again, I passed this woman with her dog. We have a nice exchange. She says, my dog's cute, blah, blah. She's just playing that game. She's like, oh, it's so cute. He swims around. And as she's walking away, you'll notice it's never right to you. It's always as someone's walking away with her husband. I hear her say to her husband, oh, they should probably just throw him a stick so he can bring something back. This time I didn't exactly let it go. I was like, no, he doesn't retrieve anything. Ha ha ha. He's supposed to be a Labrador retriever, but he doesn't retrieve. We used to throw him sticks. He never gets them back. And she kind of does this nervous, like, oh, ha ha. Didn't expect me to call her out, even though she said it within earshot on purpose. She didn't say it quietly or whisper it to her husband or wait until she got around the corner. She made sure I heard it. So I know that she has her little like Texas 2 cents in there. But I just was in the mood. I was in the mood and I had time. So I called her out for like her little like side comment. And, again, none of these are like particularly malicious, but like, why do you feel the need? I mean, the amount of people that like, I know the ground gets really hot in summer and you're not supposed to have your dog walking around because like their feet get hot or whatever. The amount of people that feel the need, if I like let him out to pee for a second in grass, to tell me, but don't let him on the sidewalk because like, girl, I know my dog is not like a puppy. Like I clearly know. And there's just like a lot of stuff like that. It's just, it wears on you after a while. Just constantly having this like unnecessary informing when you're just, and it's never to you. It's always like kind of a side comment. So it just kind of like drives me nuts. And I'm wondering if it's because people just like do not get fought here enough. Like in the Northeast, if you're just like, I don't know, constantly just like putting your slick comments in there. Like if you had said something like that to Charlie of like, oh, he should have put water shoes on. I mean, someone would beat your ass, possibly. Like possibly. I'm not saying everyone would. A lot of us like, cooler heads will prevail, but some like won't. And I know the Texans like to say, oh, but we have guns. And so people don't fight with their mouths. Right. But like muff it on the tough it up the hill at, Onion Creek is not going to either put a cap on your ass or fight you. And most of the people there are probably not going to do either thing. And I just feel like maybe that lack of threat of like someone is on their last freaking straw is just emboldening people to say whatever. I mean, I've also just been like, again, I walk on these trails in my shower shoes because I'm from the Northeast and these are not hikes to me. Like I've been to Bull Hill, I've been to Lemon Squeeze upstate. Like if you live in the New York or tri-state area, there's some crazy ass hikes out there. And here, like these little bumps, they're nothing to me, right? I don't get dressed to go on these walks. I mean, I barely break a sweat until like you think I should be wearing like full hiking gear with like sticks. And I've had people be like, oh, why are you? Oh my God, she'd be better off if she was wearing hiking shoes. For literally what? This is a paved trail. I don't need hiking shoes for this. The 2 cents, the Texas 2 cents. Again, generally just well-meaning, probably just out of boredom and a need for attention, but like, stop it. We're not at school, okay? Anyway, I do have more pressing matters to discuss. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Kristy Noem, Department of Homeland Security's former employee of President Donald Trump, Kristy Noem, who was fired pretty recently for her $200+ million ad campaign. And, also they're saying an ongoing pattern of obstructing investigations into people's immigration status. She was heavily involved in ICE, Alcatraz, all that stuff. And, anyway, so she's been fired recently. But so she's not having a good time and she's having a worse time this week because her husband, Bryon, with a Y-O-N, Noem, was found to be a cross-dressing, prosthetic breast-wearing bimboification, which this is the first I'm hearing of bimboification, fetishist. Apparently, this is like a community of people who get together and talk about body modification and having huge, huge boobs. And he's really into that. I don't care what anyone wants to do in their free time. For the most part, this is just another example, though, of how people who hold these extreme conservative views are often found being very hypocritical around a lot of things. And, I don't believe every conservative, everyone who votes Republican believes in being really oppressive to LGBTQ people or to certain, groups of people who are more on the fringe, who have different sexualities, different sexual orientations, or identify in a gendered way that, is becoming more accepted, hopefully, as we go along. I don't believe that everybody behaves that way, but I think there are a lot of people who are in politics or in that, sphere who do, and who are very vocally anti all of these things, who are basically saying that, drag queens are ruining our country, trans people are trying to get into bathrooms to do terrible things. And then we keep catching these very same people who seem to be part of these communities and just are extremely repressed. I mean, when I was trying to just look at, I have the impression that this keeps happening, but I want to make sure that's not an impression. It's in fact factual. So I did a little fact checking. And let me tell you, the list of conservative politicians that have been found, and by the way, vocally anti-gay, vocally anti-trans, vocally pro just, traditionalist family values, very much like marriage is between man and woman, and this is a very restrictive version of marriage, and it's only should be accessible to a man and woman in this specific way. A lot of these people, my God, the list is long. I mean, too long I just chose off the top. Literally, just if you go Google and look in AI, I didn't want to write down all the names, but I'll say some. Wes Goodman, Ohio State Representative, caught in state office with another man in the midst of a sexual act. Larry Craig, senator from Idaho, was basically caught in a sting by an undercover male police officer, soliciting sex in a bathroom. Then we have a George Reckers, who is very anti-gay adoption, was caught on a European vacation with a male escort. We have Robert Bowman, a U.S. representative from Maryland, very pro-family values, blah, blah, blah. 16-year-old child, male prostitute, emphasis on child. People did say 16-year-old young man, a child. And then we have Mark Foley, and he was the one, I remember this story when he was sexually explicitly texting male pages. So this is subordinates as well. Can you imagine? And, there's just all the talk about how during the RNC, Grindr is just off the chain. And the CEO of Grindr says that his app actually does have a lot of spikes during conservative gatherings in general. But during the RNC gathering in 2024, it spiked to 166% usage. So what this is causing me to divide from this is that the rampant repression amongst these conservative, generally males in politics, is causing a lot of self-hate, which is causing a lot of projecting it onto other people. And for that to end up in our legislation in this country, it really cannot continue to be the case. If these people, I will include Bryon, I'm going to pronounce his name the way it's written, Bryon Noem's, I would include his, if you are not hurting anyone, not involving minors and involving consent, I don't care. You can put on prosthetic breasts. You can put them on your head. You can put them anywhere you want and, just do no harm and we're good. But, they don't want to do no harm. They are hating themselves so much and wanting to keep their own, reality their own real identity and their own real proclivities hidden to a point where they just like try to create a lot of smoke and mirrors around themselves and deflection by attacking these very groups that they should just be part of and support and receive support from. And, you know, we've seen a lot of the politicians and, you know, prominent people that have been exposed to some extent in the Epstein files. And, you know, finding that so much of what's going on in our politics in our country and like how it runs and who's in charge has to do with people's, you know, abhorrent, like behind the scenes behavior. I mean, I don't believe that there's anything inherently wrong with like homosexuality, whatever. But I think a lot of the behavior that is being perpetrated by these repressed people, it's not simply homosexual acts. It's not simply homosexual acts. It's not simply gay people, you know, loving, having sex, doing the normal things that everyone should be allowed to do. They are, you know, soliciting minors, soliciting sex acts from people underage, people maybe who are not like in any position, you know, to consent properly. They're, you know, in bathrooms doing publicly indecent things that, you know, should be done in the privacy of one's home, etc., because they aren't just living authentically. If you're just able to walk down the street with your boyfriend, if you're just able to walk around with your prosthetics on and no one's gonna, you know, beat you up, tell you that you need to like be part of a religious thing that you don't agree with, blah, 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 this wouldn't have to happen. And we wouldn't have to have, you know, all of this out of whack, like repressed behavior, just kind of dissolving our ability to just be a country that functions and is inclusive of people. And just the hypocrisy is just glaring. Anyway, I'm just going to leave that at that because I don't really know what else there is to say about it. I'm just extremely tired of people's inability to be authentic and live authentically, wreaking havoc on the rest of us. I mean, on a legislative level, it's wreaking havoc. I mean, to the point where it's like it's causing even more rampant homophobia and causing more violence to people and more suicides and whatever, all because these people can't what? Get therapy, get a grip, live honestly. I mean, come on. In this day and age, we have bigger fish to fry. Let's get it together. I'm going to keep this, move it to a lighter area. So anyone who's in the brain rot sphere as I am, so that's the heavy stuff. We're going to move over to this stuff now. You might have heard about two people on it's actually more of a trio on Summer House, which is a Bravo show about a bunch of, you know, very young and pushing 40 people who get a Hamptons share house every summer and they party and they date and they hook up with each other and whatever. Hilarity ensues. So there are two longstanding cast members on this show. One is Kyle Cook and one is Amanda Batula. And they are a married couple at this point. When they first came on the show, or when she first came on the show, Amanda Batula, it was just kind of a casual hookup-y thing over summer, and it blossomed into a real relationship. And then eventually they got married while they were filming the show. You don't have to necessarily be super into the show to listen to this segment. I'm going to talk about girl code overall and how that comes up in this. But, you know, this is why I'm thinking about girl code. So essentially, these two are a couple. They separated recently. Before the season started, we heard that they had separated, like an official separation. And it was amid just rumors that he had been staying out late. Kyle had been staying out late and had been caught in kind of not exactly known to be cheating, but just like compromising situations, being over at fans' house late night, them having video of him blackout drunk. And, you know, certain people DMing Amanda saying that he's, you know, done inappropriate things with women that are not her. Kind of thing. So amid those rumors, and also just the fact that he is someone who likes to go out a lot, she's maybe not as much. And, you know, anyway, they have their problems. A lot of couples do. Not me, though. 15 years. No, I'm kidding. Of course, we have those issues, though. Not those ones. Anyway, so recently in the last couple of days, so there's this other cast member named Sierra Miller, who's just this insanely stunning, annoyingly stunning. I'm always trying to convince myself she's AI cast member who was dating this other guy who's on the show named West Wilson. They dated casually one season. he maybe was not feeling it quite as much. Fair enough. But they were kind of serious at one point, enough so that she went home and visited his family, and, they dated pretty heavily for a summer or so. And then I guess it tapered off, and he was a little dismissive in his, or a lot dismissive in his press after ensuing press, kind of saying like, well, whatever, I didn't like her, blah, blah. And she had felt like she was very clear that she was dating intentionally and didn't want to date someone who didn't want to be serious. And she made that clear to him. And she felt like he just wanted to hook up. And so he strung it along anyway, so he could kind of get what he wants. That was their deal. Pretty standard dating stuff. Nothing that I was like necessarily like, crestfallen about. It just seems like, girl who's trying to date seriously guy who's a fuckboy and, maybe a bit of a clout chaser and whatever. They're on reality TV. And so we consumed it as that. So then this season, they're kind of being flirty with each other, blah, blah, blah. She starts to kind of let him in a little bit. And she's been very hurt by him. I think that he didn't take it as seriously as she did, but she felt very seriously. Her feelings were very serious for him. And so she was very cautious with letting him be around her. There was a season in between where they filmed again and they did not talk, essentially. And this was like 2 years ago that they actually were dating. They filmed an entire season of Summer House, a whole summer, where she was just like not dealing with him whatsoever, called him out on camera and was just like, I don't fuck with you kind of thing. And this season, she's kind of like got different energy. She's kind of like letting him be more playful with her. Late night, they're being more flirty. And the season isn't over. So where we're at right now is it seems like they may be starting to flirt again. And like people are telling Sierra, like, it seems like he really likes you. And he's doing talking heads being like, I do have feelings for her. Like she, like, I don't know, I'm feeling her, whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get too granular with this. It comes out that Amanda Batula, former wife of Kyle Cook, who is a really good friend of Sierra's, or at least that's how they're representing themselves on the show. And she has been leaning on Sierra during her separation. Sierra has been very supportive of her, even though she also has a friendship with Kyle. She's been very team Amanda, being like, you should be with someone who treats you better, blah, blah. Really supportive of her. Amanda has come out with a statement saying that she's been banging West and they've been hooking up, and, they put out a really annoying statement, which seemed like it was written by AI, saying like, as our feelings developed and we've heard a bunch of speculation, we feel like we need to say that we, our feelings are growing and these things happen and we wanted to deal with this with a lot of care, blah, blah, blah. Some nonsense statement. Essentially what it is your friend's ex, who she was still kind of broken up about, who publicly humiliated her, and who she's been kind of starting to feel like she can kind of trust again, you went ahead and hooked up with him. As the first person after your separation, this is who you chose to hook up with. And, whatever. You don't have to be interested in this show to be interested in the subject of girl code. I mean, and if you're a guy, you can just translate that to guy code, right? I've seen a lot of the commentary going back and forth. A lot of people feel the way I do, which is just like, this is gnarly. I mean, it's just gnarly behavior. There's just no reason you should go anywhere near a guy, like some random single guy as you're single, who your friend has been through the ringer with, who has strong feelings for. And there's just these other, freaking annoying women who are kind of saying, well, they were never really that serious and it was 2 years ago. Get over it. So I agree. It did not seem to me like Sierra should entertain this man again. And, I've been in situations where I felt like my friends are letting some guy jerk them around who they shouldn't be that interested in. The fact of the matter is, she did have feelings for this person. And if you're her friend, it is not necessarily your impetus to care or decide how much or little they should be over it or care. Like, you should just give them grace and care that they are hurt and hook up with literally anybody else. And if you can't find a way to not hook up, bang have romantic situations with people your friends have been interested in, I really don't understand why that's difficult for you. I've managed to do it for 43 years without effort. I mean, I think it's hard for us to meet in the middle, like me, woman with girl code, and women who don't seem to have girl code to meet in the middle, because they don't understand that at no point do I even have to stop myself from doing something like that. It is just, what is it, inner ear or something? I immediately, my brain shuts down, but makes it a non-negotiable. The person does not exist to me that my friend has ever liked. And I think a lot of us are wired that way. And, it didn't really surprise me, honestly, that Amanda wasn't. I've observed her over time, and I have pretty good spideys. And even though she's been really considered kind of a sweetheart of the show, everyone's like, oh, she's the sweetest girl, she's cool. Like, I just did not feel that way. I've sort of seen how she's treated new girls who've come into the house. I've definitely observed that she tends to give her friendliness, attention, openness more to any random man that is new in the house, and she's a lot more standoffish and a lot more judgmental. And if she does hang out with or talk to new girls in the house, it's always in a very condescending, like, oh, little girl kind of way. And she tends to sort of talk and downplay other people's crushes, or kind of be like, well, do you really think that he meant that? If they're like, oh, I think he was like kind of flirting with me. Oh, I don't know. He's kind of like that with everyone. She kind of has that energy as a person in general. And I'm willing to bet that a lot of these Beckys in the comments are like, oh, come on, whatever. He likes her more. Like, I'm happy for them. You can't help who you fall in love with, or you can't help who you have feelings for. I mean, to me, that's like, it's absolutely insane. You can absolutely help catching feelings. The way people keep saying she caught feelings. Feelings aren't something that fall from the sky and you catch them. You have to be open to you have to be giving energy and open to receiving energy from someone, the same way that, you would never consider hooking up with your friend's husband, or you just don't see them that way. You don't go to someone's house and like for dinner and their husband is there and you're single and you're thinking you're open to the idea that you might, date. Like, I don't understand what is hard to understand about not entertaining and not being open to people that your friends have ever had feelings for. And I don't really feel the need to get, granular and like semantic and be like, how much do they really have feelings? Do they, have a right to still have feelings? Who cares if they have a right to still have feelings? I mean, are there not enough fish in the sea, my God, that you can't just take an interest in literally anybody else in the entire world? Like, I just think this is something that I mentioned it before, but it just does my head in. I have, without trying, sidestepped this my entire life. I mean, I could tell you there have been times that maybe I've met, there's a specific example where I was in college my freshman year, and me and my roommate, who had become really friendly really quickly, met, I had it was a unisex floor. And so my male gay friend, Craig, had a roommate, Alex, who, I thought was kind of cute. And I went back to my room after meeting him, and I told my friend, who was my roommate, oh, this guy's kind of cute. And she was like, oh, I think he's cute too. And like, she had also met him and talked to him in the hallway and then had a cigarette. And so we had this kind of like funny conversation where it's like, well, we met him at the same time. And we're like, so I guess it's like fair game. And then we just started to call it this fair game thing because, no one has claim here, and we can't say that one has more feeling than the other, right? So like, it's just kind of like, well, if you meet a guy at the same time, no one gets dibs, and we both like kind of realize we think he's cute at the same time, then in that case, it's fair game. And I mean, but even there, like, we communicated. If I'd come in the room all excited thinking this boy is cute, and she'd just been like, oh, and then had like sneakily, like after that, I noticed they hooked up, that could have been a different kind of vibe, right? But like, because we kind of mentioned it then, and we were just like, we kind of shook on it. It was like this funny thing. By the way, whatever, maybe because I was besties with Craig, or maybe we just had a stronger attraction. We ended up, me and him, hooking up. But funny thing, his brother came into town, and, him and my friend really hit it off. So, he was cute too. So whatever. No harm, no foul. But in that kind of instance, when you meet someone at the same exact time and no feelings, and you can both get on the same page. But even in that instance, if my other friend had been like, I don't know, I've talked to him a bunch and I really, 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 really like him. And like, I would feel really, really weird if, someone else hooked up with him. I've just like, I don't know why I developed so many feelings for him, but I have. I would have just been like, all right. I mean, I would have just backed off and like, good God, I mean, what am I losing at this point? I've like, hung out with this person once. I just really, and I have encountered people not giving me that grace, people who've absolutely known that I have a huge crush on someone. And even if it's not exactly requited yet, maybe we've like, flirted a little bit, or maybe I've perceived us as flirting a little bit, and they still went for them. Like, and yuck, and it didn't devastate my friendships all the time, every time. I mean, there was like, one where I was like, it's high school and, whatever. They were drunk and they hooked up, even though my friend knew that I had a really big crush, but it was a crush and nothing had really come of it. So I was like hurt, and I told her so. And she, was sorry and was like, yeah, if I'd been in my right mind, and we got over it. But it would be okay not to, right? Because like at the end of the day, I just think we can spare each other those feelings over guys that we are not in love with and that, will not be a big thing in our lives likely. And if we don't allow those feelings to develop, when we find out basically that our friends have these feelings about them, then there won't be an issue. And it really just, it saddens me that we're kind of taking this like hyper rational approach. A lot of women are taking this hyper rational approach to it, where it's like, should she get to feel bad about this? Well, I don't think that she needs to get on a, she needs to get on a witness stand and defend her position. I think as her friend, you should just be like, oh, well, you feel these feelings, and, we all, feelings are not necessarily always facts, and they're not always necessarily rational, but you feel them, and I, have empathy for you in that. And so it just kind of, it disturbs me how many people took that position, and how many people just seem to want to, I don't know, diminish that someone could feel hurt even if it wasn't a super solidified relationship. And I mean, it just definitely tells on it. You're telling on yourself if that's your angle. Maybe you're justifying something that you did to another friend at some point. And, it did give me a glimpse into the thinking of maybe some of these women that I've had in my life who've been hurtful in certain ways, and like how they justify it to themselves. But also having observed Amanda, and I do find her to move in a kind of insecure and competitive way, that also gives me a glimpse into like what kind of people do this. And I mean, we've seen other, situations in media like this, like the Scandoval, like crazy Bravo thing, which I'm not going to, rehash. If you want to Google it, you can, but it's another kind of like reality show cheating scandal thing. And again, here we have kind of a insecure girl without a real sense of self, and, someone who can't be alone. And I think at the end of the day, I can be alone. I'm not someone who acts out of desperation. And that's not because I'm over here like scoring all the guys 24/7. I mean, certainly not. I was pretty shy and never that, super crazy flirty one when I was in my 20s. But that still would not have made me like move like a creepy crawler, like sneak and steal people's boyfriends after hours. Like, it just really does seem to be people who are not self-affirming, and they're not really able to just not be dating someone, and then add laziness to that too. And I've always found Amanda to seem like a lazy person. And no, it's not because of her depression. That's just an impression that I get overall. I feel like there's also just like, this person's right there. They're giving me energy, and they just don't think about it any more than that. And they don't really care who it affects. And I honestly just think it's unacceptable. And people who want to diminish it, these things have larger implications. I also had said, I like to just talk about how I'm right. I'm a Taurus. It's just a thing that I have. But like I had also said early in the season, when Sierra was kind of starting to be nice to West again, and West was kind of flirting with her again and telling his friends that he liked her, I was like, he does not. He's noticing that other guys in the house do. And he kind of creates his self-esteem around getting someone that other people want. And it's not about the girl. It's about their perceived status to him. And I think that other season, maybe she wasn't getting as much energy from other cast members, blah, blah, blah. And maybe there are people that were more long-standing cast members that he wanted to kind of be in with, and he just wanted to be in the mix. He wanted to see what he could do out there in the influencer sphere and not feel tied down to this person. But this season, it's like every guy in the house is like, oh my God, Sierra, like what a goddess, whatever. And I think he wants things that other people have, and it's a status thing for him. And then I also did clock that when he was drunk and getting kind of flirty with her, he, rather than do a thing that, you know, after breaking this girl's trust and she barely is letting you like near her, barely letting you into her life, has told you that she's extremely guarded with you, rather than reaching over in a respectful, loving way while you're like trying to flirt with her to like pat her on the shoulder or touch her, this rat, this pork rind chicharrone of a rat, reaches his pink thigh and leg out to stroke her from afar because he's too lazy to get up off his chair with his dirty sock that he's been walking around this Hampton share house and doing God knows what, and strokes the side of her with his foot. And at the time, I went as far to post a TikTok saying, this is all you need to see about how much or little he respects this woman, is this foot. And people wanted to get in my comments and say that I was reaching. I'm not reaching. And I've never been publicly dogged out by dudes the way that I see people be, because I do notice these things. I clock these things and they matter. If you think little micro body language, and if you think that if someone has gotten out of someone's good graces and trying to get back into them and is trying to be like, you can trust me, and they do not have the care not to do this completely, like, I mean, my husband would actually do that to me after 15 years, stroke me with his foot from like 6 feet away. I mean, he would know that I would find that to be like, I mean, just come over here and like hug me. What are you doing? But the fact that he's like coming back from all this like shit he did, and he doesn't have the respect enough to like not do this like kind of dismissive, like, you know, half-assed gesture. You think it doesn't matter? That's why your relationship looks the way it does, and why I'm celebrating my 15 years. Observations, you know what I mean? And it has been a lot to take in, seeing how people metabolize this, seeing how the zeitgeist and the internet metabolizes breaking of girl code. And I've felt this before, seeing certain public breakings of girl codes, and also just within my own, you know, little social spheres at younger parts of my life. I mean, at this point, I'm not in any circles that really would be a possibility. And obviously, you know, not obviously, a lot of my friends are in very long-term relationships, and the ones who aren't would not be conducting themselves this way. But it's a real split down the middle of people who are like, what do you mean I would never do that? And people are like, well, what does she care? Why should she care? You shouldn't care why she cares. You should just have the moral fiber to give a woman grace if she's having feelings for someone, if she's been heartbroken, whether she has a right to be heartbroken or not, whether she has a right to have had more feelings that she's had than not, whether it's been 5 minutes or 5 years. Go find literally any other male on the planet, or just be alone. You desperate, desperate psychopaths. Is that an unhinged way to end a podcast? I mean, I never claimed to have hinges. So here we are. And I'm going to call that for the day. This has been a ranty one. I need that Charlie energy to like bring me to a more Zen place. It's funny. I call this my Zen room where I'm recording now. And when I first moved into this house, I thought it would be like kind of a yoga studio place to like decompress. And then I like fully fell off my yoga practice. I'm just in here screaming at people on mic. But you know, life has crazy twists and turns, and here we are. And I hope I see you next week. And yeah, you know, have a good one and be careful out there. It's wild.